Who is that? That's, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
All the
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
Oh, it's all the, the ego's constant challenge is can get us to piss us off, get mad,
Oh yeah.
grievance. And it's such an obvious grievance that I'm like, there's more going on here than meets the eye.
Yep. It's like a rotten carrot being hung in front of our face. We gonna go for the rotten carrot? I don't think so, homie. All right, let's say a prayer and get started, shall we? So placing my hands on my heart, taking that breath of love and gratitude, resting in this heart space.
Mm.
And just knowing that as we come together in this beautiful community, that we are focusing on the light, and that we know that even if we are seeing seeming appearances in the illusion that are not to our liking, that it's just another opportunity for us to love ourselves fiercely and deeply. And we're willing to do that because Jesus has shown us the way through his teachings in A Course in Miracles. Grievances are never helpful. It doesn't mean that we can't have our emotions. They're just an indicator that the person that is calling to be loved is us. And just a reminder that we're not even really here. We're one with our brothers and sisters. We are perfect, whole, and complete. We have mighty companions walking with us and talking with us, reminding us that we are still in heaven, a thought in the mind of God, and that this playground that we seemingly have come down here to play on is just that. So we don't need to take things so seriously. So we're willing to let go of our grievances, and we're willing to let go of anything that does not serve the light in us, the light of the world, because that is our function. We're grateful for this blessing. We ask that all those earthly and heavenly helpers that surround and support us join us now and bless this conversation, allowing it to be a healing opportunity for all of us and beyond. We're grateful to share those blessings and the love that we are with Mother Earth and all her beings, because we are one. In grace and gratitude, we let it be. And so it is. Amen. That was fun. All right, so we are in chapter or section 24, is Reincarnation So. And I'm going to read the first paragraph and a little bit of the second paragraph. In the ultimate sense, reincarnation is impossible. There is no past or future. And the idea of birth into a body has no meaning either, once or many times. Reincarnation cannot, then, be true in any real sense. Our only question should be, is the concept helpful? And that depends, of course, on what it is used for. If it is used to strengthen the recognition of the eternal nature of life, it is helpful indeed. Is any other question about it really useful in lighting up the way? Like many other beliefs, it can be bitterly misused. At least such misuse offers preoccupation and perhaps pride in the past. At worst, it induces inertia in the present. In between, many kinds of folly are possible. Reincarnation would not, under any circumstances, be the problem to be dealt with now. If it were responsible for some of the difficulties the individual faces now, his task would still be only to escape from them now. And I have to say that I don't know if I really believed in reincarnation my whole life. I did when I was working at the holistic health clinic a decade or so ago. I would try, I would sign up for the other practitioners' services so that I could see what they were like and then speak to the people that called in to schedule in an intelligent way, knowing what I was talking about. And so I went to the woman that did hypnotherapy and past life regression, and she did a past life regression for me. And it was, I really didn't think it was gonna, like, I'm like, yeah, nothing's gonna happen here. I didn't really believe that I could be hypnotized and that there was past life regression. But I did get into a deep sense of relaxation, and images came into my mind that I relayed to her. And the time went by so fast, which is just another piece of evidence that time is an illusion. And what I gleaned from that was helpful to me in the past life regression that I experienced. I was a very tall, very strong man who was taken in as a prisoner and made to fight and killed many people. And so the thing that was helpful that I got from that was I can have more love for the short, round woman that I am, because that was the way that I came into this world, to make sure that I wasn't going to be made to fight and kill other people. So I mean, I can't prove that that's true or not. But what I'm taking away from it is I can still have love and appreciation for myself exactly as I am right now. And that felt helpful. So whether reincarnation is a thing or not, who the heck knows? And really, who cares? It can only be, for the most part, a distraction from the truth. So yeah, I don't know if I believe in it or not to this day. But I had fun playing with it. So that's what I'm sharing. Gwen, and then Hamira. And Carla, I muted you during the prayer because there was background noise. So I think it's *6 to unmute yourself, just so you know, sweetie. Go ahead, Gwen.
Yeah, thanks. I thought this was a great reading. And it just brought back to me, especially as you got into paragraph 2 about whether it's, the reincarnation, the focus on the past, or, what's to come. And again, it brings us right back to the present moment. And I actually had some type of an experience with someone. I was having a really difficult time, and I had a session with someone, and they explained, that I was an admiral, and I can't think of the name, but it was someone I'd heard of. If it's true, I try to take it with a grain of salt. Well, there was a fire on the ship and all these people died, and I was feeling responsible. I don't know. I don't know that it necessarily helped what I was going through, but I thought, okay, well, how do I know? I just took it. I did take it more as entertainment, but I didn't take it as gospel truth either. So that was interesting. I was going to mention it relating to this reading. Last night, I don't know, I was listening to something on YouTube, and it was someone that does channeling of ascended masters. And we all know lots of people do all that. And we all have different opinions about that sort of thing. I tend to think we all have our own inner guide and gurus and can have our own messages that are appropriate for us. But I thought it was really interesting, and it really, what I listened to really helped, and it reminded me of the Course in Miracles, always coming back to love. There's lots of things going on right now, with the war in the Ukraine or personal things that we're all experiencing, and it was really interesting, the perspective they offered, just observe what's going on. And if you have something you're experiencing you might not really like, try to observe it with love, not judge it, because in allowing and trying to embrace it, even if we don't like it, we're allowing the energy of that to dissipate and raise our frequency and vibration. And likewise, when we are happy and we're feeling, joyful, when we encounter someone who is having grief or upset or whatever, we can help. Just being around or offering, we can help raise them out of their suffering or difficulty. I just felt that was really, really positive. And again, it just reinforced to me what we are learning and studying and discussing here, to be in the moment, to always be back to love with one another, because we're all connected.
Thank you, Gwen. Love that perspective. Hamira, then Leslie, then Kathleen, then Carla.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Linda. Yeah, this idea of reincarnation, it's so funny. I don't know, early 20s or maybe in my late teens, I was reading Conversations with God. I wasn't brought up religious at all, and certainly the notion of reincarnation was never introduced in any sort of like talks that I would overhear within the family context. But in that book, he does talk about reincarnation, and I remember that book was so helpful to me at the time. And the moment, it really goes to how our belief system runs us. The moment I saw that, I was very young, the notion of reincarnation, I kind of put the book aside, like, oh, this is BS stuff. It had been helping me all along, but when it talked about reincarnation, all of a sudden, I put it aside. And I like that what Jesus says in here: if it's helpful to you, keep it. If it's not, put it away. It's just another thing. And, but it's in paragraph 4, he says, it can't be too strongly emphasized that this course aims at complete reversal of thought. When this is finally accomplished, issues such as the validity of reincarnation become meaningless. So, we won't argue that once, I guess, we wake up. But the other thing that I found really interesting was, I guess, anything in this world of illusion can be used for healing. So I read and listened to Dr. Wise's kind of book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And I find him very credible. He has done a lot of work, including on himself, because he didn't believe in reincarnation. He had a patient that wasn't getting better. And then she had trauma from past lives, from what he concluded. But what was really interesting, this patient that came to see him, somehow they had ties in their previous lives together. So she told him, the doctor, about his own personal life and what he had gone through, as far as, his father passing away and his little baby passing away, and how the heart was formed. Information that, this was not in a time of internet, so information that no one would have known. So I don't know, it kind of makes you wonder, like, everything we make in this world can be used for healing if the intention is right, if the intention is given to the Holy Spirit, That's all. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forgot about that book. I read that as well. Yeah, and as you were talking about it right now, Hamera, it just reminded me of that story that Jennifer tells about the hypnotist that had hypnotized this man to believe that his daughter was invisible, and the hypnotist was holding a watch behind his daughter, and he could tell exactly what it was that he was holding and describe it and everything. So he absolutely, in the hypnotic state, believed that his daughter was invisible. So, you know, it's magic, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Leslie. Oh, you're still muted, sweetie.
I lowered my hand but didn't unmute myself.
Yeah.
Mary, what you said was pretty much what I was going to say, but that's okay. I enjoyed this reading too, and it's so funny because I read Conversations with God years and years ago, and I do not remember him talking about reincarnation at all. It was so funny how different books strike us at different times. And I also was going to bring up that book, Many Lives, Many Masters, so I don't need to bring that up now. And Linda, I think that's so cool. I would love to have a past life regression. I just find it interesting. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's not true. I tend to believe it's true. But, I know my husband completely doesn't believe it's true. Everybody's entitled to what they believe. What I really enjoyed the sentence 5. It's towards the end, starting at paragraph 5, sentence 7. All that must be recognized, however, is that birth was not the beginning and death is not the end. Yet even this much is not required of the beginner. He need merely accept the idea that what he knows is not necessarily all there is to learn. His journey has begun. And I just love that, because if we can just be willing to be open-minded, who knows what we can pick up and learn. The emphasis of this course always remains the same. It is at this moment that complete salvation is offered you, and it is at this moment that you can accept it. Couple sentences down here. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. And that's just like what Gwen was talking about. If we can just remember now, there's no problems now. This very second, is there a problem? No. Although, Kathleen, if you're in terrible pain, you might feel like there is, but hopefully you're not, because you look beautiful and you look great. So yay. Good to see everybody. And both Linda and Gracie both look beautiful in red. Those are your colors.
Thank you, Leslie. Kathleen, and then Carla.
Yeah, thanks, Leslie. That was the paragraph that I was going to read too. But this sentence that you jumped over, atonement might be equated with total escape from the past and total lack of interest in the future. I love that sentence. Heaven is here. There's nowhere else. Heaven is now. But then, there are several places in here where he says, reincarnation can be useful. In paragraph 2, it said that it might be a comfort in the concept. And then at the end of that paragraph, there's always some good in any thought which strengthens the idea that life and the body are not the same. So yeah, and then for myself, I've done many past life regressions. And when I was reading the Seth books, because the Seth books said, yeah, reincarnation is a real big deal. So do Gary Renard's books. Yeah, it's real. So what? But having known myself as a dandy after the Civil War, and I was a real jerk. I was a guy that went down and took advantage of people after the Civil War ended. And then in one life, I was a Native American chief watching people white man come into the coast of Florida. And it was a very solemn life. And then I had a life as a tall African-American man. I was really jolly and happy. And I lived in the bayous, and I had a big fat jolly wife. And we used to go around in the bayous. And then I was a white guy a fisherman up in Norway or somewhere. I was a real gruff life, short, gruff life. And I was a writer in England. And a lot of the people that I've met in this life, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew you in another life. And it just has given me an understanding of why I am in this person in this life now. It's like you said, Linda, it's an accumulation of knowledge and spiritual growth through all of these lives. Like Gary's book, Lifetimes with Jesus and Buddha Knew Each Other. That's a fascinating book to read, how they both studied lots of Shintoism, lots of religious pathways before they got to be who their final life was. And so I think reincarnation is very useful as a concept and fun, but it's also meaningless. You know, it's not real, but it did get me to where I am now. And then, as Seth says, all of our lives are happening at the same time. And if you heal yourself in one life, it does heal throughout all of time and space. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff that might be happening in this life is just happening again and again and again. And this time, hopefully, I can step out of the patterns. And of course, they're all about, yeah, like not killing people and not having grievances. And for myself, coming out of this surgery and having my surgeon leave my leg 1.25 inches longer than it should be, have it be such an obvious reason to be pissed off. I haven't seen him. I'll see him in a week. But and then thinking, oh, what's the big deal? You know, for one thing, it's just my body. And another thing is, so I have to go back and wear shoes again, you know, oh, well, or 2 different size flip-flops, you know, what? So, and then I might not even be thinking about it correctly. It could be that he had to do that. I don't even know. He won't call me. Jesus. But I know it's just that ego is like trying to get to me by making this really thing that seems huge, and I get to make it small. You know, it's like I get to give it all the meaning that it has for me, and who knows why it happened. And you know, I just got to let it go and learn from it that I don't have to look at it in any certain way, and I don't know the meaning of anything. So yeah, I love this chapter. It's easy to read. It was fun. Had that great line about atonement can be equated to total escape from the past and total lack of interest in the future. Just love that. All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. I have, gosh, I don't know, honestly, if I ever read the Seth books. I know my dad had all of them. But I've always believed in that concept too, that we're living multiple lives on different planes at the same time. And, you know, which none of it is real. Even those are not real. But I remember saying that to a friend of mine. She's Methodist, and I was going to a yearly gathering that the women at their church had at a beautiful lake nearby. And she said something about, she knew that one of the elder women in the group was going to try, like she had every single year, to get me to join their church. And I said, I don't think you guys would want me as a member of your church, because first of all, I don't really want to belong to a church. I don't want to be tied to a church. And secondly, I have beliefs that they wouldn't appreciate or understand. And my friend said, you mean like reincarnation? And I said, no, more like we're living multiple lives on different planes. And she's like, whoa. And none of them ever asked me to join the church again. They're still very pleasant to me, and I still love going to that weekend with them. But yeah. So I must have picked up the concept of that from hearing my dad talk about the Seth books, because I don't know that I ever read any of them. But yeah, it's all fun. Just it's a playground. Carla,
What other Seth books?
Seth was a mystic, I would say, and there are many books written of he would go into these hypnotic states. I don't know, Kathleen, you could probably better explain it than I can.
Is he the author?
Seth spoke through a woman named there goes her name. it was happening at the same time that the Course in Miracles was being delivered through Helen Schuckman. Seth was speaking through this other woman, and he called God all that is. And it's doesn't have any religious connotations at all. But there's like 12 books. Seth Speaks, The Nature of Personal Reality. And they both came into existence around the same time because Freud had already introduced the ideas of the ego, the super ego, and the id. And so now we're ready to think about our minds working on different levels. But Seth was really good at showing you how your life now makes sense and how to, he said, you create your own reality. There is no other main rule. And you create your reality with your beliefs, and you can write belief papers. You can have your feelings about your beliefs. If you want to shift them, you can write belief bridges if you're trying to shift your beliefs. It's really good at how to live in the dream, knowing that it is a dream. But he didn't go into the fact that it's a dream nearly as much as the Course does. He's more like, there's patterns that happen in this life. They connect to patterns in your other lives. There are many concepts of God. There could be other universes that have a different sort of a God. I mean, his concept of our reality is huge. And I think maybe the Course doesn't want to overwhelm us like that. There are multiple realities. He said every time we make a big decision, another one of our own lives breaks off and you're living another life somewhere else. So it's just, it's amazing, and it might be too overwhelming, the Course, even though it's difficult, is more like, it doesn't matter, it's a dream. And be happy, by the way. But anyway, Seth's fascinating. And he lived many, 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 many lives before he just decided to speak through this woman whose name I can't remember. And her husband would write the dictation down. And it grew just like the Course in
Roberts.
Yes, I
Jane
was just
Roberts.
thinking Roberts is her last name. What's her first name? Thanks,
Jane,
Colette.
Jane Roberts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's more evidence of it being a holographic world. So yeah, I'm loving this conversation. Anyways, Carla and then Mary Lee.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to say what I share, just what comes to me is that, so we only have one life. We just live. So, but we have many life experiences, many seeming different lives, but there's all just really one. So this is so me. I wrote this poem. I don't know if it really equates to what we're talking about, but and the mind wants to judge, should I share, should I not, whatever. It's like, oh, it's not really pertaining to this, and it is, and it's whatever. I'm going to share it, and it's not for you, it's for me. Okay. Life is simple. Life is love. No matter how it looks, no matter the meaning the mind gives or is believed, no matter how it feels, it is simple. If you feel anything other than peace and acceptance, joy, trust, you have made an error in perception. You've accepted something as true that is not. Life is simple. Ignore the complex. There is no figuring out life. Life just is. Life is simple. Life is love. Focus on the simple. Notice the divine alarm clock. The meaning is the meaning of the experience of what you feel, what you think is true, what the mind says is causing whatever. Is it love? Life is simple. Love is all there is. Life, love is life. Focus. Focus on truth. Focus on acceptance. Focus on peace. Focus on love. Because when you choose peace, you are choosing love. Thanks. Not even you.
Thank you, Carla. I can mute you. Mary Lee, that was so beautiful, Carla. Thanks so much.
I got a lot out of this reading. And sometimes I am not able to follow some of the words that are spoken. They seem out there and I'm working to apply them. But the third paragraph of our reading, and I'll just start kind of there in the middle. Our course is not concerned with any concept that is not acceptable to anyone, regardless of his formal beliefs. His ego will be enough for him to cope with. I like that. And it is not the part of wisdom to add sectarian controversies to the burdens. And that really spoke to me because I couldn't help but be mindful of an experience I had again when I was much younger, probably in my 30s, maybe 40s. Anyway, I went to a birthday party, and this was a birthday party for someone named Mary. And so we had brought gifts, and there was cake there, and there was wine and beer there. Although it wasn't really, I mean, none of us drank very much, but I had a glass of wine, someone else had a beer ready. But almost immediately when we got there, one person took over and said, oh, now I'm seeing all of your past lives. And so we all sat down in a circle, and she began to dominate the entire party. And 2 hours later, we're all wondering, I wonder when we're going to eat the food that was brought. I'm wondering if we're going to share the cake. I'm kind of ready for that glass of wine. And we had to hear, because what felt to me like this ego had taken over the room. And how can you argue with that? If suddenly someone's got, has all this power and all this foresight. And I remember it was a big turnoff to me. That part about the ego, that really resonates with me. If you can cope with your ego, and that's enough. You aren't going to need all the burdens of, gee, do I have every last religion figured out now? And, oh, this one's right, that one's wrong. And all these judgments and opinions, how many of us are here will all have a different opinion about something. And it's just we have our ego constantly that's enough work for the day. So I really appreciated that.
Absolutely. we have enough on our plates. Like my yoga teacher used to say, keep your eyes on your own damn mat. You know, like, don't be judging yourself because you're doing a pose any better or any worse than anybody else. Just keep your eyes on your own mat. You have enough to deal with right there. So, and I've had that same kind of experience, not with somebody that was doing past lives, but somebody that was claiming that they were psychic. Yeah, so I understand that. I'm sorry you had that experience, but yeah, I know a few people that it feels like they're in their ego when they're sharing that stuff. And it's not that I don't believe that people can receive messages for other people, but I don't believe that the people that are really doing it to be helpful or are going to do that, like hold court kind of thing. So yeah. Thank you, Mary Lee. Grace.
Sorry, just as I was going to mute, something came on the screen and hid it. And I was thinking, maybe I need to shut up. I just spent 3 days doing like a silent retreat at home and reading the works of Nouk Sanchez, and I'm in some of her classes. And I'm curious, like everybody, about this subject. We're all so, you know, it's interesting. We want to know. And I've never done a past life, but I'm sort of less and less interested as time goes on. And so everything's a dream. Everything is a dream. And that kind of puts things in perspective for me. I can either waken up in this life, or I can spend another 1,000 or so lives playing the same movie of what I'm doing in this life, or I can waken up from this life. And then what does that take? And the more I allow in the love of God, the less I am interested in anything else. In fact, I just didn't go out for 3 days now, and I just, Kiran Jay said, the world does not need you out there. And and just focused on understanding the Course of Miracles and the messages that we're getting, how to remove those blocks to love, how to awaken from this life. Do I want another 1,000, hundreds of thousands of years learning this, or am I willing to be all in right now and accept it all? And as I allow in more of the love of God, I realize that these things really are a huge distraction to me. Let's read paragraph 5. I know we've read part of it before, but it kind of puts a different look on reincarnation. Sentence 3, if he does believe in reincarnation, it would be a mistake for him to renounce the belief unless his internal teachers so advised. And this is most unlikely. He might be advised that he is misusing the belief in some way that is detrimental to his pupils' advance or his own, because we're all teachers. Reinterpretation would then be recommended because it's necessary. All that must be recognized, however, is that birth was not the beginning and death is not the end. And I have been learning that death is the huge magnet of the ego. For some reason, we are attracted to death because we believe it'll bring us to God. But it's the ego, because with God who gave us life, there is no death. We can lay our body down if we don't need it anymore, but we don't have to go through that whole aging, illness, you know, all those horror stories that we hear. So So although I am fascinated by reincarnation, I'm kind of seeing that as this is what reincarnation might be. That's what my internal teacher tells me. The birth on this earth and death on this earth are ego's inventions. And God, who gave us life, would not give us death. There's no opposite of God's life. It is all encompassing. So he wouldn't give us death. That's us listening to the ego. And so I have been focusing on, yeah, I am completely sucked into the idea of dying on earth because everybody around me accepts it. So that's where I'm going at the moment. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Grace. Love that. Yeah, it's interesting how easily we can get distracted from what our real purpose is. I was just talking to somebody, I can't even remember who, a few days ago about how I used to be really involved in the ancestry.com research, and I would be like looking at documents and documents and documents of like how the ancestors came over, when they came over to the States, and what their lives were like, where they were. And it's funny because, I mean, seriously, I could spend hours a day doing that. But here's the thing. So one of the things that I learned that was interesting that I had no idea about, I don't know if anybody else did either, that one of my great grandfathers was put in prison for sexual molestation in the 20s, in the 1920s. And I felt affected by that. But then I found out in 2015, my sister and I both had our DNA done through ancestry.com. And neither of us came back having any German blood in us. And so the ancestors that we had been spending hours and hours and hours looking up, we were not even friggin' related to them. Because they were German. We are not German. So somebody stepped out somewhere. And it was like, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, what in God's name have I been doing with all this time? What a waste of my time and energy. I mean, it allowed me to have compassion for myself, compassion for my father and his father, and even my grandfather or great grandfather. What a waste of time. And I feel like reincarnation and psychics and all of that can be the same thing if I let it. It's just a distraction to keep me out of here, which is where the actual healing happens and where I'm supposed to be focused. So, Kathleen.
When I read the Seth books in my 20s, I instantly felt like, oh, I am my grandfather reincarnated. You know, I just instantly just felt like I knew that. And if you do want to do past life regressions, it's not that hard. You know, you just get really calm, shut your eyes, imagine walking down a hall and opening a door, and you can walk right into one of your other lives. But like you say, Linda, you could, you know, start consuming your whole time with it. Anyway, I don't know. Let's see. What was I else? Oh yeah, the thing about Kiran J saying that the world doesn't need us. You know, I don't know as I believe that, because the Course is so clear that we're supposed to go out and talk to people. And Jesus wants us to speak, go out and speak and reach out our hands to other people, even though we know that it's all the same. There's only one of us. And I kind of get what she's saying. But I also think it's important that we go out and interact with the people that Jesus sends to us. And those can be the same people that I feel like I recognize I've known in other lives. Those could be the people that Jesus is sending to me to be their teacher. It's just a recognition and a feeling. That's what Robert Perry was talking about in a recent talk, that those people that it just feels so, wow, I just met you. Those are the people that Jesus wants us to interact with. So anyway, I just think part of being a miracle worker is reaching out and actually having conversations and talking to other ghosts, people in the dream.
Exactly. And I have had that same sense. Like when I met you and Paul, I had that sense, like I've known these people before. I felt so comfortable with you. Like we could have talked about anything. Yeah. So again, it's just more evidence that we're one, that there's one mind, we're one. That's all there is. Go ahead, Grace.
Yes, thanks, Kathleen. That's something I had also been thinking about, because I read in the course yesterday that our function is to spread the word of God. And I thought, how do I do that? I don't want to be one of these maniacs on the streets, particularly, unless God calls me to do that. So yeah, I keep an open mind about stuff. When I share stuff, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be an authority. It's stuff I've read on the Course in Miracles, and it's just my internal teacher. But yeah, and I was told I could stay in my house and just be a beacon of love, and that's enough. But then I thought, well, the Course says to go out, my function is to spread the word. So yeah, help. Anybody who understands all that?
Yeah, my understanding of that is, okay, not like we're supposed to go door to door like a Jehovah's Witness trying to convert people. That is not, but how we are, the body is a communication device, period. And the way that we are teaching people about God is by our actions and by how we interact with people, how we operate in the world. It's only that. It's only that. So, and we can do that from staying in our homes, just like Dr. Hugh Lin did with the patients that he never saw, never opened their files, and they all had healings. He did not do anything in the world of form. It was all an inside job. So I believe that too. I believe that what she says there is true. But yeah, our bodies are a communication device, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to leave our home to do it. But I don't think I want to isolate either, because I don't think that's healthy for me. Yeah. Thanks, Grace. Nancy Gale.
Can I just add before Nancy
Yeah.
Gale jumps in? I did this 3-day isolation, and after the end of 3 days, I was like, I have got to go out. And I guess 3 days is pretty good, but I did go out and I thought, oh, that feels better,
Yeah.
to see people. So I'm still in the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be here as long as we want to.
Yeah.
I just want to say something really quick too. Sorry, Nancy, one quick second. Just, if we, at least if I totally just think I'm in the dream, then I would be paralyzed. And I wouldn't do anything like sending all these baby packs for life to Malawi. I'd be like, well, why bother? It's just a dream. It doesn't matter. But I just feel like it's in my heart to do it. And I feel like I'm helping women. And if I just feel like it's the right thing to do right now.
Yeah. If it's
Am I wrong?
calling, absolutely not. Whatever spirit is calling you to do is exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nancy Gale.
Thank you, Leslie. Go ahead, Nancy Gale.
No, but Leslie, that was perfect. It's actually, that's the way I believe too. Because I have the same thought. It's like, well, what, you know, it's like, then I don't have to do anything. But no, you're right. I agree with you, Leslie. Jennifer, last week, I forget, was it in our class or something, or Sacred Circle? She was talking just how, she said like her family, her father and her family, they have no interest in the course. They don't talk about it. They don't ask her about it. Nothing. And she's not going to proselytize. That's not what we're to do. She says just how she is in the world, how she behaves, how she relates to people, how she talks to them and all that. That is how she bees in the world, how she is in the world, in the dream, is what we're supposed to do. That's all we're supposed to do. And I agree with that. And I'll just share one example. My daughter has married I guess he's a preacher, pastor. It's not a denomination or anything like that. It's they have a little chapel and everything. And he's a Bible, everything's Bible based. It's got to be in the Bible. But and it's like, and now I am me here with the course. And it's like, well, I would love to tell her and just talk about it, but I know not to. And because then, you know, he'll get into this long eschatological whatever discussion. And I don't know any of that stuff. And I don't even care about it. I just know the truth. And that's the thing that the Bible says, that you shall know the truth, which we do now, and the truth will set you free. And lesson 70 the other day, I was listening to, I read that. It's like I'm reading it, listening to that every night. The insights for lesson 70. It's like, oh my gosh. And it was like exactly where we got to, or Karen J was leading us on Saturday. And I actually got to this point where I knew that the all around me was just love. That's all there was. I did not have any inkling, speck of anything other than love. And it was like, whoa, this is like interesting. This is very nice place. Very nice place to be. And I thought, that's where we're headed. Well, that's where I'm choosing that. And then I got the book that Jennifer told us, The Greatest Secret. And I opened it to a page. I took it read with me and I opened it page 178, 173. And it says, the chapter is The End of Negative Feelings. And it exactly says the same thing that Karen J told it, how process that she taught us. And I said, oh my gosh. And it's like, so I just read through it and it's like, yes, I did the processing. Like, it's very simple. And that is how we are, I'll speak, that's how course says we are to be. And that's what Jennifer said. That's how she understands how we are to be in the course, how we are to be in the dream. Even we know it's a dream, but we are here, we're in bodies. So how do we operate in the dream? That's how we operate in the dream. And I use lesson 361 and I ask spirit, I turn it over to spirit and ask for, you know, who to go to, what to say, when, if, and then listen for the prompts of what to do. If I do nothing, if I'm silent, anyways. So not every day, but at least once a week or twice a week, my daughter is kind of like coming over to my world, my dream, my world. It's like all of a sudden it's like, interesting. And she said, well, what do you want? Shall we pray over you? She said, this is the second cancer. It's a different type and all this. And it's like, she said, yes, was it yesterday? We're going to beat this. I said, okay. It's like, I don't argue. I don't, whatever. I just listen and let her believe what she believes. That's kind of what this book says. You let whatever comes, you let in the person and whatever their belief is, because what they're doing is they're coming into the arena of love. And love is going to dissolve all of that somehow. But that's what you don't like resist, because then you're using energy, you're attached, you resist something, you're using energy the wrong way. And so I did it that way. I said, yes. And it's happening. I'm not like saying I want to do the or anything. It's just happening little by little by little. And I don't even have to think about it. I just ask spirit, you know what I want anyways, because recently I finally got the idea that it's in my mind. It's not a separate, like God's not separate. And it's like all my, many years, decades, I always, like my therapist was like the one that listened to me. So I would ask him, that's like, can I please clone you and put you in my pocket? So I have you with me, everywhere I go. Well, I've had spirit with me and I still have spirit with it. Didn't know it. But now that I know it, everything is different. So anyways, it's just, I am in a wonderful, wonderful love. But I'm just saying a bubble, because I mean, I know there's no limits or anything, but a bubble has no beginning, end, or corners or anything, and everything in that bubble is the same. And that's what they say. We are all in God's love, heaven, whatever, how you want to. I'm an image type person. I mean, that's how I understand things. So I just say we're all in the same bubble, and what that means, and it's all love in there. So we're all that, and that mad idea came in from someplace, and some of us just decided to, hey, let's check it out. But it's still not real. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's just an awesome way to be in this body, in this dream, in this house, in this lizard. It's all white outside. Yesterday it was all green. Today it's all white. It's beautiful. So if you need to summarize or condense what I said, go ahead. Thank you for listening.
It's all love. That's it. It's all love. You're being love. You're attracting love. Your daughter is love. The weather is love. Everything is love. And you're just surrendered to love.
When I was in that rehab place, and it was like going out of my mind because there's no window and stuff, I asked spirit to give me something to do so I wouldn't go crazy. And the idea was to ask all different kinds of people kept coming in, new ones and others. So it said, the spirit said, ask each person that comes in, like a new person for the first time, ask them to tell me something that I don't know. And I did that, and it's like, same look on everybody's, how do I know what you don't know? Anyways, I got like a whole college education for all different subjects. Wait a minute, let's say the point being, I forgot what my point was.
Well, it made a connection, that's for dang
sure. I still do that. Even like I went to Roswell to these new surgeons to have a second opinion. What'd you just say?
It's you were just connecting with everyone.
Right, exactly. That's and what was the thing when we talk about reincarnation, it's like Jennifer always says, well, we come in back, we have a purpose. There's something we want to do or something we want to learn. There's a purpose for each time we incarnate or something.
Yeah.
And I figured out what mine was.
Honey, I'm gonna make you wrap up because
okay.
1 minute till the top of the hour, and I want to get
no, that's fine.
Because I know some people have to leave at the top of the hour.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks.
All right.
You got it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. So next week, section 25 in Manual for Teachers, are psychic powers desirable? That should be a fun conversation too. And I'm going to read Pathways of Light, lesson insights for number 73, I will there be light. In this lesson, Jesus is helping me to build the habit to see the Christ in everyone I meet or even think of. Jesus is helping me focus on the truth in everyone and not the idle wishes and grievances that come from the ego mind, split mind. Seeing the idle wishes and grievances have cost me the awareness of what I am. Remembering that my real will is one with God's will brings me back into alignment with my true happiness, my true unlimited freedom. Saying to myself all through the day, I will there be light, reminds me of my true will. This helps me to behold the light that reflects God's will and mine. I need this practice to free up my mind from the idle wishes and grievances of the ego thought system. Idle wishes and grievances have imprisoned my will and have been the cause of my seeing darkness. I really do not want to continue seeing darkness. I will there be light. This is where I wake up to the light. This light has always been there. I am now training my mind to behold it. This is a very important lesson for me. This is the very important work. Beholding the light brings me true happiness. Beholding the light reflects my true will and helps me remember my true identity as part of God. I am determined to practice this consistently today. This lesson is helping me disconnect from identification with the ego. It is strongly emphasizing that I will there be light, and this will I share with God. Because I share this will with God, I also share God's strength and power. If this is what I am, then I cannot be the darkness, conflict, guilt, and grievances that the ego shows me. What a relief that pain and fear and guilt is not me. I have believed it was me and have experienced it as though it were true. But belief does not make reality. If I am experiencing anything but the peace and light of God, I am seeing only a reflection of the ego thought system. The world I see gives me instant feedback, showing me what I believe about myself. If I see conflict, pain, unhappiness, lack of peace of any kind, I am identifying with the ego. If I see light, innocence, and peace, I am identifying with my higher self and seeing the reflection of the light that is myself. It's very simple, always one or the other. All I need to do is pay attention to the feedback. And if I am not seeing peace, if I am not seeing the reflection of light, if I am not seeing innocence, I have identified with the false image, the ego thought system. Then it is time to remind myself, this is not my will. I will there be light. Let me behold the world that reflects this light. I know that I am making real progress during doing these lessons. It would be hard for me to put this progress into words that someone else could understand, but I can see it clearly. As I do each lesson, it seems that something comes up that proves this lesson isn't true or that I can't do it. For instance, I'm going to buy a car for my son since he is graduating from high school this year and will be going away to college. I've been doing the preliminary work, getting prices, checking on insurance. As I am reading today's lesson, my mind is straying to my budget. The more it does, the more trouble I have reading the lesson, the more worried I become. At one time, I would have seen this as proof I really am an ego and I would never reach the lofty heights the Course says are my rightful place. At one time, I would have quit trying to do the lesson and told myself I would do it later when I was better able to concentrate. I would have been free to indulge in some real fear. I thought of it differently this morning. I realized that this isn't proof I can't see the light. It is a perfect circumstance to help me learn today's lesson. I did my lesson right through the fear. I'm not going to say it was easy, but I stuck with it. And I did the best I could. When I felt like giving up, I reminded myself that I was setting the course for my whole day with this lesson. I reminded myself that there was nothing I would do today that was as important as what I was attempting to accomplish right here. The lesson deserved all the effort I could put into it. It is coming to me to realize that when these seeming setbacks come up, they are really opportunities. They are a chance for me to make the daily lessons concrete in my mind, to see how I can use them. I can use what I am learning to grow. I'm going to stop us there because we're at 5 minutes past the hour. So I thank you, everyone, for being here for this incredible conversation today. And I'll see you next week. Are psychic powers desirable? Who knows?
Thank you. Love
Thank
you all.
Linda.
Love you all.
Everyone.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank
Love
you.
y'all. Have a great weekend.